Monday, so the next time you see me broadcasting, Andy Burnham will be our new Prime Minister. Get ready for non-stop cringe.
I left the north again, I travelled south again. Well, there's a bit of a Smiths lyric there for you.
Oh, gosh, make it stop. He doesn't like taking questions unless it's from this guy.
Thank you very much for joining me. I imagine you're quite busy at the moment. How are you doing?
I'm good, Gary. Yeah, slightly busier week than normal, but looking forward to the game.
Yes, of course, Gary was supporting Argentina, unfortunately, but there we go. Burnham on Gary Lineker's podcast, Goal Hanger there. All he says is vague things like this.
This is Manchesterism.
Anyone? Anyone? No? Unfortunately for Andy Burnham, Manchester has seen actually the biggest fall in living standards out of the major cities in England, and parts of the city now resemble a scene from an open-air lunatic asylum. So there you go. Does Burnham want to tell some of these guys as well about Manchesterism? Just some scenes from Manchester there for the celebrations of Pakistan Independence Day. So, yeah, great. They are fully signed up to Manchesterism, aren't they? And look who he's appointed as his new director of strategy. It's a bloke called Matthew McGregor, who used to work for Hope Not Hate. So we're now going to have a political strategy drawn up by someone who used to work for a far-left organisation that published a piece online monitoring a list of areas found on social media supposedly targeted by the far right after Southport. Now, do you remember that list, OK? It's a list that sparked a load of refugee welcome protests everywhere. Oh, the night we saw off the far right Nazis. Remember that one? You know, it turned out that Hope Not Hate's chief executive, Nick Lowles, later confirmed that they'd found out the list was just a hoax. But, you know, it was all right anyway, because I suppose it got them the media attention they deserved. So, anyway, we're going to be having a political strategy drawn up by this guy. Fantastic. He also just blames Thatcher for everything. And he said he wants to take us back to the 1970s. And he said it like that was a great thing. So what did we have in the 1970s? Let's have a think. High inflation, industrial unrest, the 3-day week, power cuts. Oh, I can't wait for the rolling blackouts, can you? Economic stagnation, IMF bailout, high unemployment, the winter of discontent. Oh, yeah, sell it to me, Andy. Fantastic. Most people see straight through Andy Burnham, like comedian Russell Kane.
I had breakfast this morning and it wasn't London granolas or oats. I had Cocoa Pops. In gravy, would you believe? I said in gravy. It's my #1 goal is to seize power and to become the silverback. I will become the look. To just basically make sure everyone has access to the little wooden forks that you stab into chips. Vote Andy Burnham.
So true, isn't it? It's so true. It's such a damning indictment on Labour that none of the 411 MPs elected at the last election wanted to stand. No quality, is there? No quality. Apart from this guy, of course, but, you know, still didn't want to stand. But anyway, so far, all we know about him is that he might introduce a wealth tax. Be amazed to find out how many of you are classed as wealthy under Andy Burnham's wealth tax, and that number 10 North is set to cost tens of millions of pounds. Andy Burnham, in my view, is actually a very tragic figure. Like the bloke who thinks he's a cool dad, when in reality he's just having a midlife crisis and needs to buy some proper clothes. Look at this. That's Burnham dancing badly to Manchester band New Order's True Faith there. Does it remind you of anyone? Yeah, classic. Ricky Gervais is David Brent in the office there, showing Burnham how it's done. The biggest advantage that Burnham has is that there are so many utter weirdos in politics that he looks borderline normal. On Monday morning, we will wake up to the least democratically elected Prime Minister in British history. So enjoy the weekend, everyone. But
I'm joined now by the founder and CEO of Tally Money, Cameron Parry. So what is Tally Money and what does it do?
So you get an everyday account in your individual name, you get an account number and sort code, But instead of having an account denominated in pound sterling with your bank, you have milligrams of gold, which we brand as Tally. The reason why we chose gold, everybody understands gold. It's universally understood and accepted. It's been increasing at over 11% on average for the last 25 years against the pound. In the last 2 years, it's up 60% against the pound. So if you had, £10,000 in a Tally account 2 years ago, it's now got £16,000 worth of value. The gold hasn't changed, but the value and your purchasing power has. And so banks can't keep up with that performance.
How easy is it to get a Tally Money account then?
If you're a UK resident, it's really easy. Just go to your app store, download the app. You'll need photo ID. You can onboard yourself in a couple of minutes.
Just your passport or your driving licence?
Yep, and you're up and away. So you know what you're getting. It's very simple, low fees. It's transparent. There's no hidden fees. There's no FX spreads depending on the amount you put in. And you just get to go ahead and be productive in your daily life. Build up your savings again because it's useful to do it now.
I was going to say, so you don't necessarily, if people are watching this going, oh, it sounds a bit scary. You can open a Tally Money account, transfer. Is there a minimum amount you have to transfer?
No.
So you might think, I'm just going to play with this. I'm going to put 100 quid in it that I've got this month, and I'm either going to spend it and see if I feel like I'm getting more value for money from my sale, from the things that I'm buying, or I'm going to save it and watch how that compares to maybe 100 quid in your current account.
To find out more and to get an exclusive GB News offer, simply scan the QR code or click the link in the description.
Let's get the views of my panel and then we'll whiz it over to the audience. Yeah, so, Christo, Burnham, what do you make of the fact that on Monday, there he is.
Do you know, the only thing that he's got going for him is out of all of them, he's able to string a sentence together. I mean, that's it. That's all he's able to do. Like, he's able to basically talk with some level of emotion. He's not like a robot like Keir Starmer. And that's about it. And what's frustrating is that he blames Thatcher for everything, right?
Oh, there we go.
But he wasn't blaming Thatcher when he was in the Tony Blair's cabinet, who were continuing Thatcher's, certainly her economic policies. He was quite happy to be quite a right-wing Labourite during that time. But then, of course, he's flip-flopped so many times since, we actually have no idea what he thinks of anything. All he's able to do, as Patrick pointed out, is come out with these ridiculous platitudes about bringing people together and making politics different and all of this absolute nonsense. And in this speech today, we heard about social care, his big plan for social care, right? Well, there was nothing in the manifesto about the way in which social care was being funded. So how is he able to do any of this stuff without it actually being, without calling another general election? And this number 10 North, I mean, it's just a total stunt. What an utter stunt. Yes,
I see what you're going for there. I see what you're going for.
Thank you. Thank you for getting
literally
that.
went over a few people's heads there, but I think when you really lent into it the second time, mate.
Thank you. Thank you. It's just meaningless bureaucracy, and no one has looked at the problems of Britain and thought, yes, we need more bureaucracy. We need another layer of government in the north. So I just don't understand what he stands for. I just think we're going to get more envy taxes. I think we need a general election, and I think it's just more of the same moronic nonsense.
Well, there we go. We'll let Barry come in here. So, Barry, you posed proudly for a little selfie with Andy Burnham, didn't you? And I imagine your heart broke when you saw...
Where is it? I thought you were going to put it up on the screen.
I didn't want to humiliate you.
It wouldn't have?
Well, no, but it might in 6 months' time. but what did you make of Keir Starmer's removals van being there and Burnham in on Monday?
That, after the stunning analysis which Christo just gave us...
Thank you.
I mean, the idea that... Burnham, as part of the Blair government, was carrying out Thatcher's policies. I don't remember Thatcher initiating the minimum wage. I don't remember Thatcher actually introducing the Department for International Development. I don't remember Thatcher...
Do you know what I remember? I remember Gordon Brown deregulating the banks more than Thatcher, and I remember Margaret Thatcher...
So it wasn't the Thatcher policy you just admitted.
Calling Tony Blair her biggest achievement. She said that the way in which she forced the Labour Party, which, by the way, Blair would never have become leader of the Labour Party had they not abolished Clause 4, which was their commitment to nationalisation at the time. Now, that was a cabinet that Burnham served in.
The interesting thing is, so let's look at what one of Andy Burnham's most popular policies is, it's actually to take back into public ownership the water companies in this country. 88% of people, including 90% of Reform voters, actually want to see that happen. So the idea... So, look, it's not got to be Christo just didn't give you any fair analysis. Just look at what the guy is actually proposing, OK? He's proposing to do things like that, to take back control of our water companies. Well, thank God, because we can see the mess that they're making of it. We've had South East Water, what is it, 30 million, the fine they've just had for polluting the North Sea. Sorry, not the Channel, wasn't it? Not the North Sea.
Well, anyway, they can get their hands on.
Yeah, anywhere they can get their hands on a river. So, you know, these are not Thatcher's policies, and they're actually popular. Look at what happened under the past Conservative government in terms of the complete crushing of local authorities. Now, to give back power to local people in this country is something that actually a lot of local people will welcome, to actually enable them to say, you know what, if you're a big Amazon depot, your business rate will be higher than if you're, a small local family business. That's one of the policies that he's talking about. So actually having that power at local authority level to differentiate the tax rates, the local business rates, to actually boost small family businesses, that's a good thing. It's about entrepreneurship.
All right, good stuff. So the headline today, Anna, and then we'll go to Alan, was about, Burnham saying, go back to the 1970s. What do you make of that?
What's amazing is that we've actually heard more from Barry about what Burnham stands for than we heard from Burnham himself.
I'm just quoting what he's already said.
Yeah,
I'm quoting what he's already said.
I listened to this, the whole of his speech today, and I thought he's been elected now for a whole month. Surely we will have moved beyond the platitudes. We will have moved beyond the sound bites. Not a bit of it. I was expecting, what are the big problems that face our country? The debt, £100,000 per household. The welfare bill, £333 billion. Defence, immigration. Do we know what Andy Burnham is going to do about any of that? No. Why not? Because it wasn't mentioned. It wasn't mentioned this time, it wasn't mentioned the time before, and it wasn't mentioned the time before. And the other thing that I have a real problem with, I'm sorry, he is a bottler. This is bottler Burnham. You have got... The first thing a Prime Minister has got to be able to do is stand their ground and answer questions. He's been elected now for a month and he's only taken questions from Gary Lineker. That's pathetic. That's absolutely pathetic.
I'll bring you in here. I mean, a couple of things there, cozying up to Gary Lineker. Apparently, the rumour tonight is that Angela Rayner's going to be the Health Secretary, which is interesting because she did actually sue the NHS at one point. So I suppose she knows a thing or two about that.
She knows about vaping.
She does know about vaping, yeah. It obviously is apparently his new director of political strategy used to work for Hope Not Hate. So what do you make of the potential for Burnham here on Monday, Prime Minister Burnham?
Well, I think one of the big problems, and it's a travesty, is that someone who's got 25,000 votes has not got a mandate to be Prime Minister, and here we find ourselves. And even if he had fantastic ideas, that would still be a problem. But, there's a lot of claims made for the King of the North, our Andy. But actually, if you take it outside central Manchester on a lot of the metrics, that's not been the case. 7% actually across Manchester in residents' purchasing power has been decreased. They've had a whole series of issues with crime. And whilst, as it happens, Sir Stephen Watson's actually very good. He said he's not going to take the knee. He doesn't believe in woke policing. They're still down on metrics with having loads of things that were not recorded before properly. In housing, they've got a myriad of problems. If you look at areas outside just the Manchester Central area, in places like Bury, Tameside, in Wigan, we've got a real crisis there. Homelessness was a big, like Sadiq Khan promised all these houses, homelessness was going to get resolved by the King of the North. But there again, on that metric, it's not there. But we've got a lot of spin. And then the big idea, what's the big idea? To resuscitate the carcass of the 70s. if that is going to be the solution to Britain that really needs dynamic wealth creation, productive growth, as it happens, the British economy's been sluggish from the 70s onwards. And what we really need is investment in infrastructure, but allowing the entrepreneurial class to develop, not having hundreds of thousands of people leaving because of the tax burden that this government's put on them. And he's saying he's going to increase. How are we going to incentivise people to be in Britain, to set up businesses, when you can't actually make money from doing it? Instead, we've got these punitive taxes. And look, we've just had a whole campaign to fight for our family farmers and food security in Britain with Together, and saying there shouldn't be a death tax with IHT on them. And we won that somewhat, not entirely. And here we find someone saying this is what we're going to impose on you. Once again, without a mandate, 25,000 people. I think it's shocking. And we're going to see, I think, lots of pushback against that. On top of that, it's always opaque. You never really know what he means, because he says, on the one hand, even though he was the national ID, responsible for national ID rollout under Tony Blair, he did say he didn't really think it was the right time now to do that. Yet, at the same time, what that really means is, will it happen? Still, you never get a clear answer from him, because it's always seeming to be couching.
We're going to park it there.
Here is a fact that might raise an eyebrow. The man positioning himself as Labour's next great hope has never sat in the House of Commons as a sitting MP during his mayoralty, never held a cabinet post in the current government, and yet somehow dominates the national conversation more than half the actual cabinet combined. Curious how that works. Andy Burnham, the self-styled King of the North, governs Greater Manchester as its directly elected mayor, a role he has used rather brilliantly as a permanent audition tape for Downing Street. The trouble is, the audience back home in Manchester has some notes. Reports have pointed to Manchester experiencing one of the steepest falls in living standards among England's major cities, alongside housing pressure in areas such as Bury, Tameside and Wigan that shows little sign of easing. Homelessness, a promise he made loudly and often, remains stubbornly unresolved. When your flagship project is still unfinished, launching a bid for the country's top job feels a touch premature, rather like asking to captain the ship before you have finished patching the one you are currently sailing. Now, let us talk vision, because Burnham certainly has slogans. Phrases like Manchesterism and bringing people together sound lovely on a podium, but slogans do not fund social care, do not shrink a household debt burden sitting well over £100,000, and do not answer the harder questions on welfare spending, defence or immigration. Critics argue his politics leans heavily on nostalgia, evoking an older, pre-Thatcher Labour identity without offering a modern blueprint suited to today's economy. It is rather like promising someone a spaceship and handing them a very well-restored vintage car. But before we pile on entirely, credit where it is due. His long-running campaign to renationalise water companies has genuine public backing, with polling showing overwhelming support for the idea. His push for greater regional power and local business rate reform also resonates with voters tired of decisions made entirely from Westminster. So this is not a simple villain story. It is a story of a politician with real popular instincts, wrapped in a leadership style that still leaves major questions unanswered. Here is the real tension driving speculation about his future. Britain does not need more charisma or nostalgia dressed up as a plan. It needs concrete, forward-looking solutions to debt, growth and public services. Whether Burnham can evolve from compelling regional figurehead into genuine national leader remains the question hanging over his entire political trajectory. Thank you very much for